Well, the so-called bipartisan border bill is a big ball of bullcrap.
Alliteration intended.
Viva Frei, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida rumbler. I had to jump in the car and do a vlog because the so-called bipartisan border bill dropped yesterday night. And my goodness, I've had some time to look through it. I've had some time to listen to what smarter people than me had to say about it. And my goodness, if you had any doubts as to whether or not it was a big steaming pile of bullcrap, I dare say nothing less than taxpayer money laundering, wait until you hear the details about it. From NPR, negotiators release $118 billion border bill as GOP leaders call it dead in the House. Oh, that's terrible. Those big bad GOP members in the House say it's dead on arrival. This $118 billion border bill, of which only $20 billion goes to the border to give the president powers that he already has. This bill is nothing less than taxpayer money laundering. One last drink for the road, because we all know the conflict in Ukraine is coming to an end sooner than later. So why not try to siphon out another last kick at the can
for $60 billion.
While finding a way to provide nearly $15 billion in aid to Israel while providing billions of dollars in aid to Palestinians, Gazans. Back to the NPR article. The bill includes just over $20 billion for border provisions, including expansion to existing policies and new policies. That includes $650 million for the border wall, approximately $4 billion to hire new asylum officers, and additional funds to provide counsel for unaccompanied children. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought the border wall was racist when Donald Trump wanted to build it. $60.06 billion in security aid for Ukraine, $14.1 billion in aid for Israel, $10 billion in humanitarian assistance for civilians in Gaza, the West Bank, Ukraine, and, quote, other populations caught in conflict zones, end quote. Even if they happen to be victims in conflict zones of the American government's making. $2.33 billion for refugees from the war in Ukraine, $4.83 billion for allies to, quote, deter aggression by the Chinese government, end quote, in the Indo-Pacific region. I mean, this is just wild. It's just offensively wild. You have people in Lahaina, Hawaii, who still don't have homes. This money could rebuild Lahaina in its entirety. You got people in East Palestine. The president just went there on the one-year anniversary. You've got a government neglecting its own people so it can siphon billions, hundreds of billions of taxpayer dollars to foreign countries. And you go through this bill and you look at the sums. It's like Oprah Winfrey. You get $1 billion, you get $1 billion, and check this out. Missile procurement, Army, for an additional amount for, quote, missile procurement, Army. $2.742757 billion to remain available until September 30, 2026 to respond to the situation in Ukraine and for related expenses. But wait, there's more. Procurement of ammunition, Army, for an additional amount for, quote, procurement of ammunition, Army, $6.4143 billion to remain available until September 30, 2026 to respond to the situations in Israel and Ukraine and for related expenses. And as far as I understand how the aid works, it's the American government taking taxpayer dollars to give to foreign countries so they can then buy arms from the military-industrial complex. I don't know which politicians have interest in these various contractors, military contractors, but my goodness, business is good
when you're playing with someone else's money.
And I was listening to Dan Bongino on Rumble earlier today. I was listening to a bunch of people break this down and explain it, but Bongino in particular raised a relatively interesting, long-forgotten point. A certain section 212F of the Immigration and Nationality Act, which seems to already vest these powers in the president with no need for additional legislation. Section 212F of the INA reads as follows. F. Suspension of entry or imposition of restriction by president. Whenever the president finds that the entry of any aliens or of any class of aliens into the United States would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, he may by proclamation and for such period as he shall deem necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants or impose on the entry of aliens any restrictions he may deem to be appropriate. Well, that existing provision of law seems to be pretty cut and dry and damn clear, if I may cuss a little bit. It seems to already provide all the requisite powers at the pure and sole discretion of the president to do what the president thinks is necessary to bar any aliens from entering the United States of America. And for those of you with memories longer than that of, I don't know, one election cycle, you might recall that Donald Trump faced challenges under this very provision of law where they deemed his so-called Muslim ban, which was actually no Muslim ban whatsoever, but he faced challenges under this provision provision of law that his so-called Muslim ban was not lawful, not constitutional. Ultimately, from recollection, unless I'm mistaken, the court came down 5-4 and said that his watered-down version of the Muslim ban was legally permissible. But this provision of law already exists, such that everything in this so-called, this purported border bill, of which only 20 billion of the 118 billion actually goes to the border, the entire bill is totally unnecessary and merely an excuse to siphon more money off to Ukraine. The president does not need any additional powers. He already has all of the existing powers he needs to secure the border, but my goodness, pretend he doesn't so that you can craft this bill and find a way to siphon off hundreds of billions of dollars of taxpayer money to foreign countries. And another amazing point that Dan Bongino pulled up is that at page 212 of this bill, this border bill, my goodness, it would seem that it might allow upwards of 5,000 illegals to enter America every day, regardless, without the president being forced to act. Don't believe me? Just go read the provision, or as I'll do, read it for you. Page 212, B, mandatory activation. The secretary shall activate the Border Emergency Authority if 1. During a period of 7 consecutive calendar days, there is an average of 5,000 or more aliens who are encountered each day, or 2. On any one calendar day, a combined total of 8,500 or more aliens are encountered. What the hell does that mean? Your guess is as good as mine, because we can work some math into this, which could mean, in theory, that hypothetically, over the course of 7 days, you could have on average just under 5,000 illegal aliens entering the country, and this emergency power that the president already has
Shall not be invoked.
And I stumbled across an equally insightful tweet from Jimmy Dore, who picked up on a video from Chuck Schumer that's also going viral. Chuck Schumer is the king of the veiled threat. He's the king of letting you know the powers of the deep state. Remember when he said that the FBI has 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at Donald Trump? And my goodness, did the FBI find 6 ways from Sunday to get back at Donald Trump?
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you.
Well, Chuck Schumer is out there saying in a not-so-veiled gangster-type threat that unless the GOP acquiesces and agrees to send 60+ billion more dollars to Ukraine, well, if you don't do that, you might have American soldiers going over there to fight. You have Chuck Schumer literally threatening the lives of young American soldiers should the GOP not acquiesce to their demands to siphon more money out there.
We're at a turning point in America. This bill is crucial, and history will look back on it and say, did America fail itself? Why is it crucial? Well, if we don't aid Ukraine, Putin will walk all over Ukraine. We will lose the war, and we could be fighting in Eastern Europe in a NATO ally in a few years. Americans won't like that. Americans won't like that.
Americans won't like that.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
And to that video, Jimmy Dore had the following to say. Everyone knows the Ukraine war is over, and as predicted by our show, ending on Russia's terms. This is Chuck Schumer fleecing America of a $118 billion to his donors instead of spending it on Americans and our own country. This is how the mafia operates. They warn you of bad things happening to you if you don't pay them protection money. We are ruled by puppets of the U.S. mafia state. The MIC, the military-industrial complex. And after flipping through this bill, picking the minds of people who I think are smarter than me, and reading the news, I did a little piece on RT this afternoon to basically share as much.
And now let's cross to David Frei, a lawyer and legal commentator joining us from Miami. David, it's good to have you join me now. Now, why do you think the Democrats chose to place a hot-button issue on domestic security in a bill that dictates foreign aid to Israel and Ukraine?
Don't forget, it's purportedly bipartisan, as if this doesn't signify exactly what's wrong with a uni-party type system. Bipartisan, purportedly for a border bill or border immigration policy. More than half of the bill goes to funding or providing aid to Ukraine. It's wild that they can actually try to jam this in a bill that's too long for anybody to read, but for the fact that people aggregate knowledge on the internet are going to come together and look at this and say, holy crab apples, this bill, this border security bill for 118 billion, barely has 20 billion for the border, granting the president rights or prerogatives that he already has under existing law, but then finding another way to slip in 60 billion to Ukraine. What was it? 14 billion to Israel, with another 10 billion to Gazan civilians and other victims of conflict. I mean, this is, look, it's tough to look at this and see it as anything other than taxpayer money laundering.
So that is it. That's the so-called border bill, which provides $20 billion of $118 billion to secure the border with powers that are already vested in the president while siphoning off $60+ billion to Ukraine. One more drink for the road when you know the party is over, and that is basically what Chuck Schumer is telling you. Now you know what to do with this information. Spread it loud, and if you like what I do, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow me on Rumble, Viva Frei, on Twitter, the Viva Frei. You can follow Robert Barnes and me on Locals, vivabarneslaw.locals.com, where you get amazing insights like this. Bourbon with Barnes almost every weekday night. It's fantastic community, but more important than anything, get out there, talk to people in real life, and now you know your vlog. Peace out, peeps. Booyah!
With executive authority, or is there more you could do? Absent
Not all I can do. Just give me the power. I've asked for the very day I got in office. Give me the border patrol. Give me the people. Give me the people, the judges. Give me the people who can stop this and make it work for us.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.